It is another edition of Weather Wagers. Brett Thackeray, Dan Tomaso alongside, and man, we are cruising through football season. We're cruising into the baseball playoffs, and while there may not be a lot of weather to talk about with some of these games, once again, Dan, we saw last week that weather was a factor.
More delays.
And I heard about it with broadcasters. I heard about it with the people that I follow on X.
Sure.
Everybody was talking about these weather delays, and they have such an impact on these teams.
I mean, it changes everything, right? Especially the whole lightning delay issue, which, you know, when you and I were going to Penn State games back in the mid-2000s, there truly wasn't a plan for lightning in a metal stadium. Now we're much more aware of it, which is great. But at the same time, when it does happen, you have to wait for it to clear the radius.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you're kind of at the will of Mother Nature. If the storm stalls, you're going to have a longer delay.
100%, and we saw that in the Miami game. Now,
Yes.
that didn't have much of an impact there. We saw it in the Texas Tech game, which we predicted right here. And I think there was another game last week that had some weather to it as well.
Yeah, some of the lower, lower tier games certainly had some issues. And, you know, you kind of hope it's at the start of the game and not in the middle of the game, but sometimes you don't have a choice.
No, and I just go back to that Penn State-Michigan State game with
We'll
Trace
never forget
McSorley.
it.
We'll never forget it, and that was a brutal delay, and it changed the outcome of the game, and that's why we're here. So you can find us everywhere you get your podcast. We're all over it. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify. We're on Amazon Music. You can watch the video feed on YouTube, and, of course, our CTV app, which now is everywhere as well. We're on Roku. We're on Fire, we're on Apple TV, and we're on Samsung TV, and we're always going to be here Thursdays trying to set the stage for the weekend forecast. And for the most part, so far this season, we've done a decent job of predicting sort of which games might be impacted by these delays.
Well, and generally speaking, this is the time of the year I think about tropical activity, that there's usually some type of stalled tropical system.
We've seen it.
That has not happened so far yet this year. We're not done with hurricane season yet, but that could be a factor down the line too.
Well, and as a forecaster, listen, I understand that long-range model projections, long-range forecast projections are important and people like them, but I always tell people, especially those tropical predictions, to take them with a grain of salt. It is very hard to tell what might impact tropical waves. For example, this year, Saharan dust from the desert is blowing out into the Atlantic and kind of putting a lid on things. There has not been. They always love to say there's going to be a lot of tropical storms, and a lot of times there is. Dan, we're only a G right now,
We're only a
Gabrielle.
G, yep.
And we haven't had a big season at all. So
Let's hope it stays that way.
Will that change? We don't know. We don't think. We're sort of after the peak of tropical storm season now, but there's still September, October, and even November left.
I was going to say I had a vacation ruined last October because of Milton.
And it was late October.
Right.
Yeah. So, no, there is time, and there's time for these storms to impact games, and that's why we're here. But we're also here to talk about broader issues, and we each pick a topic. This week I'm going to go first, and we're going to start in college football. And I just want to talk about, as Penn State fans, we've seen our offense play decently, but we've also seen the offense this year struggle to get into a rhythm. Fans have criticized Drew Aller for that. We've seen him make some questionable throws. There's no doubt about it. But when you look at the landscape of college football, I mean, there's a lot of QBs that have had issues. None bigger than Arch Manning, who was everybody was going to crown him the Heisman winner in July. And now that he's played, I mean, he missed 10 consecutive throws in the game last week against UTEP. I mean, this is not a quarterback that looks great. Cade Klubnik was supposed to be in New York this year. That team doesn't look good offensively. DJ Lagway was somebody that I was told to keep an eye on because Florida could get to the playoffs this year. I mean, there isn't a whole lot of great QB play across college now. Now, Georgia and Tennessee had a very good offensive game. Joey Aguilar in Josh Heupel's offense looks really good. Gunnar Stockton doesn't look bad. But, Dan, on the whole, some of these quarterbacks not living up to expectations. And I want to ask you why that is. Why isn't it better? And maybe there's a better reason, but do these teams really practice a lot in the offseason that we know of, or do they just have to get in rhythm and it takes a few weeks?
I think it takes a few weeks. And, we've seen this with other struggling quarterbacks in the past, that it always seems like by October and November, they finally step up, especially as you get into conference play and you know your opponent a little bit better. But I think that's part of it, too, that in these first few weeks, some of these big matchups that have happened, it's really tested these guys. And it's almost unfair in some ways because we have to remember they're 18, 19, 20-year-old kids for the most part, except for Diego Pavia, who might be turning 35 next week. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but he's looked good.
He's looked very good. But there's very few of those types left.
But
you know,
I'll tell you, DJ Lagway throws 5 interceptions in one
that's
game.
very surprising.
It's very surprising. And let's go back to Aller for a second. I mean, he's not 18 or 19. He's been in the system for a while. He's had the same offensive coordinator for a while. But I want to take the coordinator out of this. I mean, I think of 2 throws. One was in the first game to Nick Singleton. He ran a little out route, and Aller just is trying to throw it to him.
Missed him, yep.
And he just misses him. And that's not a throw a third-year senior starting quarterback should be making. Somebody that is supposed to go in the first round of the NFL draft. And then the second one was the interception he threw against Villanova last week. He just kind of lobbed it up to Katron Allen, and it looked like the Villanova guy came out of nowhere.
Timing
but it
was totally off. Something was wrong.
It was a terrible decision, a terrible throw. And I was talking to a fan.
Some guy named Sean Clifford used to make those types of throws sometimes.
Yeah, but you almost felt a little more confident with him. And we're going to get into the confidence factor in a minute because I know that's your topic. But, I was talking to our guy, Rusty, yesterday, big Penn State fan.
Rusty in the North, huh?
Rusty in the North. And he said, I think it's a mental block with
I do
Aller
too.
sometimes. And
I do too.
That is not something that you have to fix. Bruce Feldman, I was listening to his podcast with Stuart Mandel, The Audible. Shout out to those guys. We're fans. Bruce was talking about Arch Manning, and he said, maybe it's the yips like these golfers get. That's hard to fix, isn't it?
It's hard to fix in season, that's for sure.
And that's what worries me.
Well, keep in mind, Aller came off of 2 brutal losses. Very tight games, Notre Dame, Oregon, and not that long of a period of time. And so you have to wonder if that's in the back of his head and now the expectations. And this is where I get into the hype and the rat poison that, all this hype about the offense, new receivers, there's no excuse this year. These kids see that stuff.
Well, there's no hiding it, and there's no hiding the rat poison, as
right.
Nick Saban says. But I just wonder if Aller can deliver. Not because he's not talented. We know he's talented.
He's talented.
And not because we don't have the wide receiving core this year. I think that we do. They're serviceable enough. I think mentally he's got to just go out and let it fly.
It seems like it's the easy throws that he struggles the most with, and it seems like when he gets into a rhythm in a hurry-up offense or a 2-minute offense, he's not thinking as much. And I would love to see Andy Kotelnicki. I know you didn't want to blame offensive coordinators here, but I would love to see them lean into that a little bit more because when Drew's been at his best, other than the interception that ended the Notre Dame game, I would just love to see can we do a little NASCAR offense here and there and see if it gets him going.
Well, I think you might see him run. There's no reason to risk him running when you're playing the Villanovas of the world. You don't want that. The next week, the whiteout coming to
everything.
town.
Show them everything.
You're going to have to because you need to win that game if you assume you may lose the Ohio State game. Not that the team is assuming that, but I'm saying it's very important to win this.
Correct.
So that leads us into your topic, which is what?
So I just want to ask kind of a thoughtful question here. And this goes back to some of the hype issues I've had with Penn State the last couple of years. When, as a Penn State fan, have you truly trusted the Penn State offense? And why did everyone think it was going to be different this year? And I warned you about this going into the season. I didn't want to read a lot of the preseason articles and the preseason hype because I just didn't know what they had. They're losing a generational talent in Tyler Warren. You're replacing 3 wide receivers. What type of offense are you going to run? Is it going to be effective?
Well, let's break it down because I do think there is this sense of panic out there among Penn State fans. Now, let's lay this out before we panic. We scored 46 points.
Yep.
We scored 34 points, and then we scored 52 points.
And would you say the Nevada game was our best offensive showing? Because I think I'd actually say that.
I think it was, and that's a little concerning too because it almost seemed like it regressed, even though the last game was our most points scored.
Right.
And again, I just thought the offense clicked a little more in that first game, and we were all kind of wondering. It didn't seem like it did at the time, but looking back, that probably was our best offensive performance. But again, this is a team that has scored 46, 34, and 52 points. Do you know what offenses aren't clicking right now? And I'm going to answer your question, but LSU. You saw Brian Kelly attack the reporter this week. The reporter's first question was, what's wrong with your offense? Now, Kelly got upset at that because
they just won the game.
He won the game, and I kind of agree. You maybe wait and time that question a little bit later in the press conference. But
fans want to know about this
that
stuff,
offense
and that's the
looks,
problem.
and that's another quarterback that isn't really clicking, Garrett Nussmeier. That offense, Florida's offense. Here's one, Clemson's offense.
Yeah, what happened there?
They're not scoring 46 and 52 points.
With a vaunted offensive coordinator.
And I know they've played some tougher teams than we have, but, I mean, they weren't clicking in that Troy game either. So I think before Penn State fans or even you want to panic, and I'm there with you. I understand.
We're watching the game in real time, and we think, boy, they should go up and down the field.
I do think that, again, we're not alone in offensive struggles. Right. But I think the last time, to answer your question, that I fully trusted this offense was when Trace McSorley, Saquon Barkley, and those receivers were there, and you felt like Trace was going to run or Saquon was going to bowl over. You didn't have any doubt that we were going to score points, and that was with Joe Moorhead.
Right. And so this is what I wanted to go back to. I think this Penn State offense under James Franklin runs the best in the RPO type of format where the quarterback puts the defense in conflict because now that's something else to think about. And essentially, they're daring Drew Aller to run and make that a factor, these defenses, and he's just simply not. So all these complicated packages where you could hand off back to Drew, like there's a direct snap to a running back. We've seen that play a couple of times, but Drew's not really an option right now. Will that change moving ahead? Or the famous play last year against Ohio State where essentially the left side of the field is wide open off the edge if Drew just takes it rather than giving it off. If that becomes an option and he's running a little bit more, I think it could open up the passing game. I think it could open some holes for running backs.
Now, listen, I think you're right. Here's the issue, though. I could see it becoming an option when we need to win these big games, but you know what else? You really don't want this guy hurt. If we win against Oregon and Aller goes down,
what good is it for, right?
What good is it for? We're going to come back to Penn State a little bit later in the program because obviously everything is building toward next week. Mm-hmm. But I want to bring in Dave Shiner now. We are going to shift back to baseball for a second and talk about the Phillies. And, they've been on the West Coast. Many of us, including myself, and I work early mornings, cannot watch these games. They're on way too late.
We're getting the highlights and the box scores the next day.
But notification in the middle of the night.
Correct. We are following them, gentlemen. And Dave, just wanted to ask you, how special is it that the Phillies have clinched the NL East and this early?
Well, I mean, it's pretty amazing, actually. I mean, especially with all the injuries we've had recently. Mm-hmm. If you would tell me we'd lose two of our top 5 hitters and our starting, ace in Wheeler, I'd be like, well, yeah, the Mets obviously won the division, but that is not. We've had guys like Bader and Marsh and Max and all these guys step up, and it's really been a testament to these guys just feel special. I mean, do you guys feel the same way? This is a special team.
I feel it more this year than I have in the past, and it's also a shout out to. And I know people necessarily don't like to hear this because it is about the players. And Dan, for just a second, getting back to Penn State, college football, of course, we put the coaches in the spotlight. We put the ADs in the spotlight. At some point, the players have to execute.
Players have to play.
You've talked about that.
I've talked about that.
I've been saying that on the baseball side. At some point in these runs, the batters that we know are sluggers are going to have to slug.
Yeah, the Bryce Harpers of the world, the Kyle Schwarbers, absolutely.
To come through. And by the way, they are right now. Let's again see when we get into October. But this team does feel different. But what I wanted to say is, Shiner, in addition to that, these players feel special. But I also think as Philly fans, was trying to explain this to my 11-year-old son. Dan has lectured me on this, and I've seen now people lecture others on X about it. And I use the term lecture loosely. But, Dave, I'm sure you've told
reminders.
You've told your sons this, but this is a very special run we're on. The Phillies have not been a winning organization for most of our lives, for most of our parents' lives. Mm-hmm. And you have to give a lot of love and shout-outs to the ownership,
Indeed.
to the strategy from the GM's office, the front office, and then to Robbie Thompson managing this ball club night in and night out, who is a very quiet guy, but he's a player's manager. I really believe that. And so it's a top-down, well-run organization these days, like the Eagles.
That guys want to come to. That's big.
That's a huge part for sure.
I think it is. I think it is special because of those things. And part of the reason they want to come to it, I entered that lottery for postseason tickets.
As you should.
Listen, it's always sold out. I mean, these people come to the bank and they party. So no, I think the team is special. This could be a very special year. They have to stay hot. So let me ask you, fellas, that's my next question. It's great that we're doing this, and they clearly want the 1 seed. Now, I know that where we sit today when we're recording this, they did lose last night to the Dodgers. That's fine. We won the series, and I think we won the season series, right?
We did.
Oh, yeah.
We have the tiebreaker.
But the Brewers keep winning, too, by the way. The Phillies have said they want the 1 seed. They're going to go for it, and they might get it, but I do think it's going to be tough. Either way, with our performance against the Dodgers, the 2 seed almost locked up. Look, playing great baseball. I worry. You get a bye. You
don't know. You don't
enter
know.
in Trey. You enter in Bohm. Does some of that offensive magic get off? And can they carry this momentum into the playoffs? And if you believe this team is special, why do you believe that they can?
Well, the sample size recently, I think, shows you they are the best team in baseball against teams over 500. That's every team you're going to play in the playoffs. And, they kind of exercised their demons against the Mets. I mean, they went and got swept in Queens, but then came home and swept them in 4 and really buried them in the division. I mean, we went from a couple-game lead to a 12-game lead in the fastest time I can ever remember a team doing that.
It's amazing. And let's not forget, to your point, the Mariners series.
Right, the Mariners series. Blew the doors off of them.
The Brewers series on the
blew
road.
the doors off of them.
And now the Dodgers.
And what I like to see, and I keep going back to this, is the games that you even lose. Is it a close game? Did they claw their way back, or they just kind of lay down and get a bunch of strikeouts in a row? And for the most part this season, they have clawed back in every single game. There's been a couple of clunkers, and some of those were Jordan Romano's fault. But for the most part, this team is resilient. And, I don't know. You could ask me a million times over, are they going to make a run? It really depends on matchups and situational hitting in the playoffs. Anything can happen. But before we get to the playoffs, this weekend for the Phillies, it may not mean a ton for us overall, but it's a ton for our division rival.
Well, let's talk about the schedule. You're jumping around here, but I'm okay with that. I think it's a good segue into play.
I just want to make sure that everyone knows the season's not over.
Do it. No, let's do it because I have another question for you, but let's talk about the schedule first. The season's not over, but you know who knows that? The Phillies, the way that they talk. And I want to make a point, too, just real fast, because you talk about chemistry and you talk about making a run. I saw Nick Castellanos, who in my mind, has been a little bit of a pouty brat at times, not getting to play every day. But that's in my mind. I think now I saw him and Bader point to their ring figure.
They seem to really like each other.
They do seem to be coming together as a team. And I think Castellanos has gotten over it. I think he's enjoying the platoon. He's done well, but he wasn't hitting the ball.
I will always take a player that wants to play.
Well, right. And by the way, so will I. And if Nick wants to throw a fit privately or maybe be upset he's not playing, that probably is a good thing. And he knows, seemingly, with that gesture, the ring is more important than anything.
And his time may come. He may be in a big situation in 2 weeks. If he's batting 6th or 7th in the lineup,
boom.
You never know.
So we have the schedule. We're still out west, by the way, over the weekend. Talk to me about the Diamondbacks, why you think that's important.
So the Diamondbacks have gotten hot as of late, while the Mets have kind of sank below. And a lot of people are saying the Mets' folly is really given teams like the Giants and the Diamondbacks new life. We come into today, the Mets only have, so this is Thursday, the Mets only have a 1.5 game lead on the Diamondbacks. Now, I know we have demons with the Mets.
We also have demons with the Diamondbacks.
Right, so pick your poison.
Yeah, I don't want to pick it. I think this team can – we've proven it. I didn't think we could win the Dodgers series. I didn't think we could win the Mets series at home. We swept them. I didn't think we could win. And by the way, I'm living in the past. I'm taking what we have done the previous 3 years and I'm applying it to this team.
Yeah, I really think you do have to flush it. You have to flush it because every playoff tournament is different. If you would have told me the 2022 team would make a deeper run than the 2024 team, I never saw that coming.
No, me neither. And so, but listen, these series are important. And there's obviously, if we could take 2 of 3 from Arizona over the weekend, that helps us.
And buries the Diamondbacks.
It buries the Diamondbacks. Of course, it keeps the Mets going. That's if the Mets win, though, and that's always
they have to
question.
Win. That's correct.
Then we come home versus the Marlins, and then we end the season at home with 2 straight series, the Marlins and then the Twins. And those should be winnable series if we continue to play like we are. But speaking of, who is the team that you are most worried about heading into October right now?
It was the team we just faced, the LA Dodgers. And I say that because Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts have shown in the playoffs they are dudes, and they get it done. The other thing is Shohei Ohtani plus a healthy Blake Snell. That's a pretty potent 1-2 in any type of rotation, plus they have Yamamoto. So right now, unlike last year's run for the Dodgers, they have a healthy rotation. But I will counter that. The one thing that they have not going for them is a healthy bullpen. And that could be huge because starters generally go 5 or 6 in the playoffs, don't face a lineup a third time. They might be a team that's vulnerable because of that back end of the pen.
Well, and I want to point out, you said something earlier, baseball anymore, you get into, you just don't know, roll the dice. But to your point, the Dodgers were limping into those playoffs last year, and guess who won the World Series?
I know, and that's why it's just so hard to tell year to year.
So your point this year is, hey, they look loaded, okay, maybe other than the bullpen, but they also know how to win because they won last year.
They've been there, done that.
So I do think that that's an important point, and we are going to most likely have to face them at some point.
And keep in mind, too, I firmly believe this, the National League side is harder than the AL side this year, which isn't always the case.
No, it's not, certainly, but I agree with you. There's a lot of AL teams that are up and down. Quickly, and then we're going to shift to college football. 30 seconds. Biggest strength of the Phillies team right now?
Biggest strength, I think, is the chemistry. The lineup up and down, different guys are contributing night to night, and that is critical in the playoffs because you can't just rely on one or two players.
No, and I don't think we would have said that the previous 3 years. The lineup, the bats being the biggest strength right now to help the pitchers out.
Correct.
When there is some struggling, and they haven't struggled much, even without Wheels. I think that's so important. Well, we will get into college football right now. It is time to, before we look ahead, okay.
Oh boy,
we are going to look back a little bit now. Not even to this past week. We're going to play some clips for you. Remember, we played a game a couple of weeks ago called Yes or No with Dan Tomaso. We're going to check to see how right you were, or if you want to change some of these opinions, okay? And we're going to start with one that, by the way, I think you nailed. I want to give you a lot of credit. This was Dan's take on Notre Dame. Will Notre Dame lose another game?
The answer, I think, is yes. And here's why. Their offense still seems lacking to me, and they have Texas A&M on their schedule coming right up, and I think it's going to be a tough game for them to win.
Well, Texas A&M did not cover that big spread last week, and they have to go to Notre Dame
this year. They do have to go to Notre Dame, but if that's their running game this year, it's not looking good because their offensive line did not look as strong.
So you were right. They lost. They lost to Texas A&M. But do you want to amend maybe what their problem is?
Well, I did not see this one coming. I thought Chris Ash was actually a decent hire coming off Al Golden. That defense did not look the same the way it did in the national championship against our Penn State Nittany Lions.
No. By the way, they score 40 points. They get the offense going a bit. Jeremiah Love is there. Their O-line protecting seemingly.
C.J. Carr had a good game.
They have a good quarterback. I'm very concerned about their defense.
Well, and what does it say about Texas A&M?
Well,
that we might have learned something
Marcel
there.
Reese.
I know.
How about a quarterback that is playing well?
There you go.
Okay. And Mike Elko, too. How about a coach?
Kind of a hot hand lately.
Yeah, just keep an eye on Texas A&M. So I think we learned something about that. All right, let's see if Dan wants to amend this take on Alabama. Dan, will Alabama make the college football playoff after that performance against Florida State?
No.
Why?
So I am very concerned that this Kalen DeBoer fit is a bad one because last year there were cracks. There were games where they were up, and then there were games that they were down. They looked like they were totally outclassed against Florida State, and we don't really know what Florida State is. So Alabama, this vaunted program, this program that should be this perennial, 4-star kids, just come on in, come on play. I didn't see any of that.
They loafed. I mean, there were plays where they were loafing.
And I would assume, based on what we know about Florida State and based on what we know about the SEC, Florida State's not going to be as good as the SEC teams.
Well, do you want to amend that or not? Because
I don't think so.
Well, I will tell you, no program has probably turned the narrative around faster than Alabama, but they played a nobody, and then they played Wisconsin, which has been pretending to be a nobody for a while now. Not sure Luke Fickell's going to work out there.
No, I don't either. And that brings us to a game later on in this segment. I'm glad I said what I said, that I think the SEC is going to be stronger than Florida State because Texas A&M. What about Auburn? I mean, these could be very tricky games.
What about Oklahoma?
Yeah, Oklahoma,
That's
too.
another game we're going to talk about. Well, listen, I don't think I still, you said it in a quote there 2 weeks ago. I don't think we know what Florida State is.
Correct.
So let's hold the phone there. I think Florida State could still be very good. But so could Alabama. And it is, would you at least allow the possibility that, again, there was a lot of overreactions after week one?
Oh, sure.
And maybe Kalen DeBoer went in the locker room, kicked some butt, and they now have things figured out. Listen, it's kind of like Penn State. They played a cupcake, and then they played a very weak Big Ten team.
Sure.
I don't know what we know, but much like Penn State, we're going to know in 2 weeks.
We will know in 2 weeks.
Penn State, Oregon, Alabama, Georgia on at the same time.
And that's a wild weekend.
It's a wild weekend. So finally, how about this take, everybody? Now, I want to give you some credit here. you were telling me all summer long, even before we knew we were bringing this podcast back, that you really did not understand why the national media was in love with Dabo Swinney. Okay, and Dabo, by the way, he just went on a rant this week. He's 55.
He's 55, and
Okay?
I
He's
think
55.
he's starting to show it.
And he's well over a man. He's not 40. He's 55.
Yeah, he's not Mike Gundy.
So, but you said you didn't see it. You thought his time was up, and that you really didn't understand the Clemson hype. Well, but then you answered this question in a very interesting way. Play the clip. Will Clemson, who did get beat by LSU, win the ACC?
And my answer is yes to this. And the reason I say this,
you were down on Clemson.
Oh, I'm still down on Clemson. I'm not impressed by their offense. I think with someone of Kate Klubnik's experience, that was just not an acceptable performance. But I think, unfortunately, for the ACC, I mentioned how weak I think the conference is overall. Other than Miami, Clemson almost wins this thing by default, in my opinion.
Well, what about Florida State?
Well, that could be true, but I don't think they fixed all their issues in one off season.
Well, do you want to amend that statement?
Well, I think my reasoning, which I didn't flesh this out enough, was they squeaked in last year.
Sure.
Clemson kind of got it together at the right time, but they also had some things fall their way in conference with other teams beating up on each other. I did not see this team losing to Georgia Tech. That was not the thing I saw. I saw maybe Miami giving them trouble, maybe Florida State, but Brent Key said, I'm going to run my quarterback and I'm going to run you out of town.
Well, and now you've got Florida State, Georgia Tech.
Yep, Miami. Do
you think really they're going to win the ACC?
Probably not now.
I don't.
It's a long road ahead.
We do try to keep ourselves honest around here. Okay, and one of the ways we do that is checking those old clips. But one of the ways we do it, too, is to review our picks from last week. So let's look at the big board.
That was fun.
It was fun, and we both, I mean, listen, I'll take 500 every week, Danny. And you bounced back from a 2-8 record a couple of weeks ago now to 7-3. Boy, I'm really mad at Georgia. You were smart to go money line here. You got the win. I didn't.
Well, I pictured the game ending the way it did. I really did.
Field goal. And by the way, what a game. What a heck of a game that was.
Hey, Josh Heupel, did you win the big one yet?
Well, again, everybody
Crickets.
wants to get on James
Crickets.
Franklin. He's winning games the way, or he's losing games the way we used to.
Correct.
You talk about that
at the bitter end.
Well, you talk about the Joe Moorhead offense and how fun it was. You know what we would do in those games?
We would stomp them.
Well, we would stomp them, but then we would let up defensively.
Well, sure.
And that's what I'm talking about. It seems like Tennessee was doing that as well. Did you see Kirby at the end of that game, what he did to the audience in Tennessee?
A little,
Gave him a little tongue.
Glad you did that, not me.
That's what he did. So that was it. But what my point with that is, that was a big win for Kirby.
Oh, yeah. It
was
keeps the
important
program
for
on the
Kirby.
up and up.
And yeah, I mean, that was fun. Texas Tech had that delay. They had no problem with Oregon State.
Nope.
By the way,
ran over them.
Oregon plays Oregon State this week.
Yeah.
Now, listen, they're probably going to stomp them. I'm just saying, it's the Civil War.
It's another data point.
It's a data point. It's an important game while Penn State rests.
I was going to say, I think that's the most important part, that Oregon, I for some reason, I thought they did have a bye week this week, and then I saw on their schedule they didn't.
They
that's
play
huge,
their rival.
Then they have to travel.
Correct.
And they just did travel Northwestern, and I think that does play into things.
100%. Just keep that in mind. All right. What else happened last week? Let's review. I picked Notre Dame. I thought they could get it done at home. You picked.
They should have gotten it done at home.
Yeah.
They let it squeak away at the end too.
But you picked Texas A&M. You win that one. We both got the Bills. They had no trouble. I got the Seahawks and Steelers over 40. And you picked the Steelers.
I picked the Steelers.
The Seahawks stomped them.
Well, and I was a fool for believing in the Steelers offense. I really was.
It's early yet. Let's hold the phone on that.
Yep.
I'm not sure you're a total fool, but I understand why you feel like one. I feel like a fool not picking the Birds. I mean, I thought the Chiefs could get it done at home. They look off. And the Eagles, again, let me just
Found
give
a
them a
different way
shout
to
out.
beat the Chiefs.
So impressed with how that organization is run these days. They not only found a way to beat them. I never felt like the game was in doubt. Did you?
I never did either, because I felt like the Eagles were essentially controlling the clock. And what makes a difference in the NFL? Not turning the ball over. And Jalen is just on another level since about week 4 of last year of protecting the football and not doing the dumb thing.
Well, exactly right. All right. Moving on from that game, we go to
Manny.
The under the radar game last week. Duke and Tulane, right? And Duke, we figured they would win, and they got stomped. Something is going on there, and I don't like it.
I don't like it either. Again, that could have been a team that made a little bit of noise in the ACC. You can't drop that one.
Tell you, we both went 2 out of 3 with our own picks. I did pick Oregon to cover against Northwestern. They did not. So
Something
just
interesting
heads up.
to follow.
Miami did put it to South Florida. I knew that magic would run out. And how about the Indianapolis Colts? There was some controversy at the end of that game with the officials getting involved again. But ultimately, they won the game, and I covered. And Dan, Memphis looks hot.
Memphis looks hot.
That's going to be a game we pick this week as Arkansas comes to town. Oklahoma looks good. I know it was just Temple, but you picked them to cover, and they did.
Well, and I was thinking it was going to be close in the first half, and it really was never close.
And SMU let you down again. Maybe
Yeah.
time to stop picking them.
Something's wrong there too. I feel like that they're not reaching their potential.
All right. We do have to keep moving, and we want to get to this week's games, but real quick, because it is a bye week, not an off week, but a bye week, according to James Franklin. What are your main concerns after 3 weeks, and can this team really beat an Oregon team that does look really, really good?
Well, my concerns about the defense have lessened a lot. I mean, I still think the safety position, they don't have a starting strong safety. They've been rotating through guys. That's still somewhat concerning against a team with speed, but their corners are all over guys. I mean, it's a physical secondary type of team. I think we're still a little thin at linebacker, but Jim Knowles, as of yesterday, was actually talking about this during his Zoom press conference that they are trying to find additional linebacker depth. The D line looks pretty good. Dennis Sutton really does look like an NFL type of player right here, right now. So we got to capitalize on that. The offense, I would love to see in a better rhythm, but I've reviewed a lot of tape on different segments I've seen on YouTube and Twitter of this team. I really think it was a poorly called offense the last few weeks. And I mean that saying they're not showing
on
much.
purpose.
Yeah, they're not showing much. They're running the same plays over and over again. And I don't care what they say. They were trying to get Nick Singleton right. They were trying to get over whatever mental hurdles he has in that game because Catron was so dominant, probably could have used a few more touches, but I think Catron's RB1. I know there's a little bit of a controversy there, but I don't think there is much of a controversy.
Well, and speaking of getting right, I did forget to mention our records overall this season. Remember, we have a steak dinner on the line. You got yourself right. You're back in the lead. 18-14, Danny.
It could be fleeting, though.
16-16 for me, which I will be happy with. So we are doing just fine there. And again, before we get into the games of the week, can this team beat Oregon
what do you
in 2
think?
weeks? I'm going to need to see it. I'm highly skeptical.
So one thing I want to go back to, when we had to play Auburn at the home-and-home series, we didn't have a lot of data going into those games either, and a dominant Penn State team showed up that did move the ball and didn't stall on offense, and I just wonder if that's a comparable right now, that when the big game, the big lights came on, they came on, and part of me says, I know Franklin says the 1-0 every single week. These guys are older. They came back for a reason to play for a national championship. I think they've been looking ahead the whole entire time to this game.
Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan, any big game we've played in, it has not been great.
It has not been great.
I'm going to need to see it. I'm going to need to see it.
Time to step up.
We will find out. We'll talk more about that game next week. All right. Cue it up. It is time for
Games of the Week.
All right, let's get to them. And this week, again, listen, we tried to find some games with weather, and we're gonna figure this out because there's not a lot of weather going on. Okay,
For right now.
you're gonna tell us about the weather for each game, but we're going with 3 interesting games. Auburn and Oklahoma, 3:30 on ESPN. Oklahoma is favored by about a touchdown, 6.5. That makes some sense to me because, again, I think Auburn is kind of in prove-it mode. And Oklahoma, by beating Michigan, at least prove they can beat a helmet team. They look good. John Mateer looks good. Brent Venables looks like he has the defense back. Auburn travels to the Palace on the Plains. What are your thoughts? It's an interesting game.
Both teams I don't think we know enough about. Obviously, you just mentioned the big data point of beating Michigan, but how good is Michigan? They're in a change from quarterback position from last year. They still run the ball very well. They're physical on defense, but are they the same team that Harbaugh left behind? I don't think they are.
And we've got Florida at Miami next. That's the 7:30 game on ABC. Game day's going there. I know there was some controversy there, too, because I think they had that planned before the season, honestly, and obviously now it's not as big of a game. Miami's a 7.5-point favorite.
Well, it's big for one person, I think.
Well, it's big for Billy Napier. And by the way, this game could have some weather to it, and we're going to get into that in a second. And then a very big game in the Big Ten.
This is the one I'm looking most forward to.
Prime time. Brett Bielema, Kirk Cignetti. This line surprised me a bit.
Me too.
Indiana, I know they're at home, but Illinois seems to have the tougher team. They've been there. They're ranked higher.
The experienced quarterback.
Yeah. Indiana favored by 6 points.
Yeah. Two different, by the way, they're both Midwestern teams, but two different styles to both teams.
Talk to me about the weather here for these games. You've got a Midwest game.
We have a Midwest game.
You've got an Oklahoma Plains game, and then you've got Miami. What's going to happen here?
The issue, once again, is these boundaries, warmth, and the potential of thunderstorms. So into the afternoons,
look at Norman, too.
There are storms around. It's hot. It's humid. We haven't seen the big cool down yet for fall in places like Bloomington and Norman. So I'm not saying there is going to be a storm, but there's at least a chance. Miami, I think, is a much higher chance for storm activity. It's been very active for the Florida games lately.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that as you look ahead, I think keep an eye on Norman, because that is going to be a place too that could see a storm on Saturday. So, all right, let's get to Sunday's games and Monday, because these are games of the week in the NFL. Again, hard to find weather, so we're going to pick some big games. Rams coming to town for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are 3.5-point favorites. The Colts and the Titans, again, not a huge game, but I picked this game because I'm thinking, how good are these Colts? We're going to find out. They're a 4.5-point favorite. And then how about this game?
Another big matchup.
Lions and Ravens on Monday Night Football, huh?
Right here on ABC.
Right. So what do you think the weather's going to be like? I mean, again, maybe some clouds on Sunday.
Yeah, lingering clouds, maybe a little bit of damp weather. But
Nashville could get damp on Sunday.
Yes,
Look
there
at
is
that.
a front nearby. So this front has been very interesting to track, that it's very slow to move east. But the timing right now does line up for Tennessee, not for the Mid-Atlantic. The Mid-Atlantic issue is this east flow, and you can see it there in the winds. But I think for football standards, it's not going to be that big of a deal.
I agree. So our picks for these games, we both like Oklahoma, but I think they can cover this.
Wow.
I think Brett Venables gets it done on defense. You say not so fast. You're going to pick them, but that's a big number to you.
It's a big number, and I think it could come down to final possession.
We don't give Billy Napier any hope, do we?
Yeah, it's not a good look. Now, I've already seen rumors of James Franklin, being up for the Florida job. I mean, the Florida job isn't even open yet.
And again, if I'm James Franklin, do I want to move down there and do a whole rebuilding process? No. And I don't buy it. I don't care that he has a home down there. A lot of people do. Illinois, Indiana. Here is where we go a little different.
You're gonna pick the Fighting Illini to cover, huh?
Well, I read a stat the other day. Kirk Cignetti at Indiana has not beaten a ranked team.
I did see that. I know what you're talking about.
So he's going to have to prove it to me.
Well, I think the advantage is they're at home. I think this is going to be a sneaky game for the Nittany Lions. Everyone talks about Oregon and Ohio State. We have to play Indiana, too, this year, and I want to see what their offense looks like against a good defense.
Well, I like being opposite you on that one because I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen, so that's fun. Both of us are picking the Birds to cover. Again, I went against them once.
All they do is win right now.
And again, the Rams, do you think they're anything special this year?
I don't, however. I think Sean McVay has just had a bee in his bonnet about the Eagles game since that game in the playoffs. I don't know what the deal is. They think they should have won. I think Nick Sirianni puts a stamp on it.
And we both like the Colts to cover.
Yeah, I mean, the Colts have not punted this year. 2 games, no punts.
Boy, there's a stat, huh?
They just keep scoring on drives.
And Mr. Shiner, who plays on the Indianapolis Colts?
Mr. Tyler Warren?
Yeah, that's exactly
pretty
right.
good from what I've seen.
Yeah, the first 2 weeks. I mean, that's why I said all this panic about the Penn State offense. Remember who we lost.
Yeah, he's now in the NFL.
Danny Dimes must be the real reason, though.
Well, that's the other interesting point. Daniel Jones, career revival. Everybody leaves the Giants and becomes a star.
I think if you leave New York, you're probably better off. Ravens, both of us love them to win here. Now, your Lions have been looking rough, but again, you think 4.5 is a big number, huh?
Well, let's face it. The Ravens have trouble putting away games. So, again, I think it could be a field goal game.
You're a very smart man, but I I think they're getting antsy.
Okay.
And I think Lamar is going to go off.
Okay.
And I think they're going to cover that 4.5. Let's talk about a smaller game this week that you picked to go under the radar.
Under the radar.
So this is a matchup that in years past you might say it's not under the radar, but it just kind of shows where Wisconsin is right now.
Well, I think Maryland's always under the radar.
Yes, well, that I agree with. However, are these teams in two similar spots when you think about it?
I think Wisconsin has a lot of problems. I think Fickle has been a miss. I think they have very little NIL support.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a passionate fan base, though. I think they need to rally the troops at some point because they're not the Wisconsin we grew up with. And this is one of those teams you don't want to start fading now.
No.
You want to position yourself well for the future. Now, are they in as bad a shape as UCLA? Certainly not.
No.
But they do need to win a game like this at home.
And do it well.
Yeah, I'm not sure they can.
Yeah, I'm not sure they can either. And would it shock anyone if Maryland goes in to Camp Randall and wins?
Not the way Wisconsin is
Correct.
playing. No.
So I when I saw the -10, I was like, whoa.
I can't wait to see your pick on this, but could be a sneaky good game because, again, both teams might be bad, but, again, who wins a game like that?
And it's in the noon window, so it's early. Most people can watch this.
Yes, indeed. All right, I have some picks for you. Are we ready? Let's do it.
Time now for Brett's Best.
All right, here are my plays this week. And, listen, I really do think that there's some good college games, but I didn't go all college this week. That's sort of where my forte is. But I'm going Arkansas at Memphis.
That's a good one.
I have looked at these two teams. Neither one plays defense well. And look at that over-under.
It's big.
It's big.
It's big.
But I am over.
What do you make of the press conference that Arkansas just had?
I didn't see it.
So there was essentially another cry about not having enough money for the program, and they are behind. It was
Who
it was
cried
almost,
about it? Was it Hunter
I think it was
Yurachek?
I think it was
Okay.
the AD.
Yeah.
Essentially, like, we're not competing right now in football because we don't have the money.
Well,
What does that just sound like? What did we just lament about Mike Gundy for?
exactly. And but their conference has money. That we know.
And I was going to say, aren't they the home of Walmart?
They're the home of and Tyson Chicken,
Right. So
and they're the Hogs.
right. So
Yeah.
you would think that it's crying wolf a little bit.
Well, Woo Pig, I'm going the over. I don't think either
Okay.
one is a defense.
All right.
Give me the over there. How about this good old-fashioned Big Ten
Slugfest.
slobber knocker?
Uh-huh.
Michigan at Nebraska. That's the 3:30 CBS
A 9 to
game.
6 game at halftime.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what. I like Nebraska at home. If Nebraska is going to make a
Yeah.
comeback,
If they're going to survive.
and Matt Rule teams typically do, they have the guy they want at quarterback. I think he's talented. They have a good mindset on defense because of Matt Rule. This is the type of game that you win. Michigan is not that good this year.
No.
We saw, if Oklahoma's back, they had to beat a team like Michigan.
Correct.
And if Nebraska's back, they also have to beat a team
Must
like
win.
Michigan at home.
Must
and
win.
I think they get it done. Finally, the Packers and the Browns. I guess I will pose this question to you quickly. Have you been impressed with the Packers more than you thought? I have.
Yeah, well, and again, they have some momentum riding into the season with the big trade of Micah Parsons, but against the Browns.
Well,
this-
yeah, lay the points.
I was
mean,
going to say,
that's an easy
this
pick,
seems a
right?
lot. I mean, I'd go minus 14.
Well, there you go. But that's my point. I'm giving out what I think will be easy wins.
Okay.
And you are too. Let's get into your Doppler dandies.
It's Doppler Dandies.
All right, so this week was hard because the matchups are not great, but I go back to the Big Ten because this is another data point that Penn State fans need to see. What is Iowa? What is Rutgers? Because Rutgers seems like they do have momentum the last couple of years under Greg Schiano. But look at this line. Iowa favored by 2.5 points on the road. Iowa has one of the worst passing offenses again in college football.
I know. I think it's almost an easy pick.
Are they gonna run their way to a win? Are they gonna be physical and shut down Rutgers, or is this Rutgers' chance to plant a flag in the Big Ten?
Rutgers could be ranked soon.
I know. So again, everyone that thinks Penn State is a cakewalk in the Big Ten, I got a story to tell you.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. Every week is tough. How about Cal?
Now, you asked me last week, this was almost my pick about who I thought was a surprise this year. Cal has an opportunity to run the table, but they got a tricky away game here against San Diego State. San Diego State probably not as well heeled as years past, but you still got to go out there and do it.
Used to be Big Ten after dark, or Pac-12 after dark. Now it's Big Ten after dark. Michigan State goes to USC.
Weird
Interesting
kickoff.
game.
Yeah.
Weird kickoff. Interesting line.
Yeah, Michigan State, this is where the Big Ten travel comes into play, that, for a Michigan State fan base to see a kickoff at 11 p.m., that's rough. But USC, some playoff predictions have USC's playoff odds higher than Penn State right now. So, as I say, another data point. Let's see how they do against a pretty good Jonathan Smith team, in my opinion.
Yeah, but it is at the Coliseum. All right, we're going to wrap it up for you now. It's time for Final Picks.
Final picks.
False start, 5-yard penalty.
There we go.
There we go.
Figured it out. He
My
got it.
bad.
Final
That's
Picks
all right.
time. That's okay. We love the Doppler dandies so much, don't we? Dan, let's wrap this up. And again, we are similar this week on a few. So let's talk about them. We've got Oklahoma both winning. I've got them covering. I think they're that good.
Okay.
Miami, we both like to cover.
I can't trust Brent Venables yet.
Okay,
Sorry.
Nope, I think that's fair. Miami, we both picked to cover. I don't even think that's going to be close. Prove us wrong,
Yeah,
Florida.
do it, DJ Lagway. Do it.
Now's the time. You love Kirk Cignetti. I know you do.
Well, he's intimidating, to be honest with you. I think they are a program that could be a major thorn in the side of Big Ten play.
But Brett Bielema is borderline
Well,
erotic.
I know.
Brett Bielema is borderline erotic.
I mean, it's a throwback team, right?
Yeah, it is, yes. But those were his words. Eagles,
I know it was, but I was ignoring you on purpose.
Eagles, we both like to cover. Colts, we both like to cover. Ravens, we like to both win. I'm going with the
You're gonna
cover.
take the points.
Now, let's talk about the under the radar game. I like the under here. The under's 44. I think it's going to be sloppy and ugly. And
Well-
you're picking Mike Loxley?
I'm picking Mike Loxley to cover just because I think this game's going to be close. And 10 points is a lot for a Wisconsin team that what have you done lately?
You can't spell Loxley without 11 L's.
Well, that's true.
I'm just saying that. Good luck to you on that one.
Okay.
But listen, has Luke Fickell given me any reason to trust him? No. So it's interesting. All right, my picks: Arkansas, Memphis. I'm going the over, baby. Give me that over 62.
Wow. Shootout, huh?
I'm going Nebraska money line, and just in case the Browns try something funky, I'm going Packers money line.
So you didn't take the points after all of that.
No, I didn't. I gave you the old looky-loo there.
switcheroo, huh?
Yeah. How about you?
Well, it's hard for me to pick against Kirk Ferentz. If I had to pick one of my favorite coaches, he's one of them, even though the offense is in 1900 versus in the 2000s. Cal, a surprising team, a very good team right now. I think they're on a roll. They could be a potential playoff team. Could you ever say that before?
No, I couldn't, but maybe they found a home in the ACC.
They might have found a home. And then Michigan State, I'm relying on Jonathan Smith to cover because that seems like a lot of points.
For USC team.
Yep.
I would agree. Shiner, any picks you hate on there? That's what I like. What do you vehemently disagree with?
Yeah.
Nervous about the Birds this weekend?
Really, I'm not. I think actually the Arkansas Memphis over that 62.
That's a lot of points.
Well, it's a lot of points, but not saying it can't happen. And you know what? Iowa.
Yeah.
You never know.
If I
you
had to
never
pick
know
there,
out there.
I'd go Greg Schiano, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a tough one. But
It's a
hey,
tough one.
that's why they strap them up and play the game, right?
Iowa
You're
was
right.
predicted to be a problem this year, and they lost to Iowa State. They need to start racking up wins if they are going to be a problem.
Well, I think they need a quarterback in order to do that.
Well, that's
but
true, too.
We're going to see. That is all for us for this week. Again, you can find us every Thursday, and we want to hear from you. There are our social media handles, and we have an email, weatherwagers@gmail.com. Write to us to let us know what you want to hear on the show, because we are, if anything, certainly obedient to our viewers and listeners.
We certainly are, and we love to hear from you. And again, this is the reason why we do the podcast, because we want to share our passion with you. Keep in mind, everyone, we are gearing up for a big week next week. This was our warm-up week, if you will. College football will be a quarter of the way over after this
1
week.
month. Yeah, exactly.
So things are going to ramp up quickly.
They really will, and I'm excited about it. We're going to talk more about the Penn State-Oregon game next week, give you our thoughts on that. Enjoy your week of football, everybody. Have a great weekend. We will see you back here next week.